Hi, welcome back to Pink's Picks, recommendations from a retired English teacher. As I said last time, today I'm going to be discussing two murder mysteries and two of my pandemic reads. Murder mysteries are nice escapist literature during times like these. So the ones I'm going to share with you today are Reconstructing Amelia, as I had said, and The Woman. You saw my notes on the back. Shh, don't tell. And The Woman in Cabin 10. We're going to go ahead and start with Reconstructing Amelia. I was intrigued by the cover of this piece with the brightly red-shirted girl facing the Manhattan skyline, which we could clearly see from the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, which is very, very appropriate for the setting, which is primarily in a Park Slope, Brooklyn, very chi-chi private school. In this piece, bullying is not limited to the students in this school because it extends to the families as well, and particularly the protagonist and the protagonist's mother. What I liked about this book is that Kimberly McCreight, the author, unveils one secret, literally one secret after another, through very, very interesting narration. And that interesting narration um, rotates from blogs to text to Facebook posts to journal entries, from first person narration from the perspective of the 15-year-old Amelia, who, this is not a spoiler, we already know from the very beginning of the book that she is deceased. But from her first person perspective, as well as the third person limited perspective of her mother, Kate, who is a litigation attorney in New York City. Um, so uh, that's what I really liked about this book. I also learned about a genetic condition called Waardenburg's syndrome, which was interesting. Um, the only thing, I only have one complaint about it, and it's very minimal, but in the scenes where the detective on the case is investigating, he allows Kate, the mother, to accompany him um, on part of his investigation. And that seemed implausible to me, but I, thankfully, am not a cop. I appreciate everything they do, but I don't know, maybe they do let people accompany them on their investigations, but it didn't seem likely to me. Never seen that on Law and Order. So, aside from that, it's very clever, as I said, the narration, and I give this as a result an A. It has been compared to Gone Girl, but I think a really better comparison as opposed to Gone Girl would be a book called Testimony by Anita Shreve. You may recognize that name. She's probably most famous for her piece titled, oxymoronically, I might add, Pilot's Wife. In this one, the narration is similar because it's rotating narration again, um, which is one of my personal favorite styles. And it's rotating narration from the key characters in this particular piece. And what it's about is the far-reaching ramifications for both the innocent and the guilty when student-made sex tapes land in the hands of the headmaster. This was published in 2008. That's probably about the time I read it, and it is 305 pages. The other murder mystery that I'm going to discuss today is, as promised, The Woman in Cabin 10. That's by Ruth Ware. You may recognize that name if, in fact, you read In a Dark, Dark Wood. Both of these, and that's what you're seeing in these little circles, were instant New York Times bestsellers. Um, so this also was compared to Gone Girl. Uh, this has 340 pages, 37 chapters, and 8 parts. Uh, I do like that structure because it's nice, again, to take breaks, as I'd mentioned in a previous episode, in our busy lives where you have a stopping point with this. In this particular piece, the protagonist, who is named Lo, which is the nickname, she's a travel writer who's been invited on a partial press junket. I say partial press junket because there are other passengers on the maiden voyage of this extremely posh yacht. Early in this Nordic cruise to see the Northern Lights, Lo witnesses a murder. She reports her story, but uh, it's not taken seriously. We find out why later. And her story is attributed, what she saw, to PTSD over a recent personal trauma. So that part of it is pretty exciting. I'm going to talk about another book by her. I really like that one. I found it an easy read, a fun read. I would give that an A as well. And I do want to discuss as briefly as I can In a Dark Wood, and because I brought it up. With this one, it's about a bachelor party gone bad. In Britain, apparently, bachelor parties are called hen parties. There's 36 chapters in this book, and the 36 chapters seem to mimic the number of hours of the primary action. It begins with the tableau. I'll talk about that in another episode for those of you who don't necessarily understand what that is. And followed by the very first chapter, which takes place in a hospital. And after that, it's all retrospective narration, uh, where we learn how Nora, the protagonist, ended up in the hospital. Um, I'm going to first talk about something that I really like that Ware does, and it's a stylistic device that she uses called chiaroscuro, and it is in The Woman in Cabin 10, it's the whiteness of the interior design of the ship coupled with the darkness of the Scandinavian landscape. And this just serves to heighten the suspense of Lo's claustrophobia as well. In this piece, we also have the chiaroscuro, which was kind of obvious when you look at um, the outside. It's the juxtaposition of the snow and the dark deeds, if you will. Um, this book, I'm going to just, for me personally, you guys might like it. I'm going to have to give it a B. The writing is good, but what I don't like about it as a 60-year-old is the constant drunkenness, and that the characters are mean drunks. They're not funny drunks like in a one of the Hangover movies. And I don't really find reading about that necessarily appealing. And the dialogue, again, seems more appropriate for a 20-something. So again, I am going to give this a B for me, for my reasons. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time. We're discussing The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, as well as The Little Paris Bookshop. Hey, thanks for coming back. Keep reading and do your homework. Bye.